Hello friends, welcome to my channel Creating Essence. I am Megan. Thank you so much for stopping by today. Hanging out here in my bedroom, clean laundry that needs folding in the background, to answer some questions you all had for me about homeschooling. My little helper here is probably gonna make some noises because she's adorable and she can. So we're just gonna roll with it because she wants some mama snugs right now. So my friend Lindsay over at Bites of Memory asks, what is everyone's favorite subject this year?
My favorite subject is history because I like history. It's very easy and interesting.
My favorite subject is science because it's about animals.
My favorite subject is language because all you have to do is just writing stuff most of the time.
My favorite subject is the fox one because it's an animal one.
You like animals?
Yeah.
And were the foxes for your numbers or letters?
Numbers.
My favorite subject is math because it challenges me.
MoCrazy5 over at Instagram asks, how do you deal with internal pressure and balance it with letting your child go at the pace they need? Well, I guess this being my 11th year homeschooling and having been a teacher before this, I've kind of, I guess you could say, outgrown that internal pressure a bit. I do have a high schooler this year, so there's a little bit of insecurity that pops up from time to time on different things on, am I really doing this right? But, in practicality, all signs of actual learning point to yes, she's doing great. I just keep trucking. The internal pressure really isn't there like it was before. In my early years, I chose the most rigorous and school-like full program and just pushed the kids through the paces in it. As a trained teacher, I was able to modify it to meet their needs and learning styles. But still, I definitely caved to that internal pressure. And over the years, I've just kind of realized it'll be okay. I'm actually reading the brand new Sally Clarkson book right now called Awakening Wonder, which is about how she developed her education philosophies with her kids and how that, in the spirit of things, looked in their everyday life at home and their kids' reflections on it. And I was able to do the Awakening Wonder online conference that they did in the end of August while I just sat and snuggled my baby. It was the perfect timing. And her adult children actually shared so many of their memories, and they're all very successful entrepreneurs and highly educated business people now. And they shared about their experiences looking back on things, and it was so incredibly affirming. But it did inspire me to pull out Educating the Wholehearted Child that her husband Clay wrote, that was the actual hows and whys of their education process for their kids. And it just makes so much sense to me and was so affirming. And even though I've already read it, has been giving me as I've read through it, more ideas to incorporate. And I've learned new things I didn't see the first time around. So I highly recommend those books, both of them. Sally's new book, Awakening Wonder, and the book by Clay that Sally helped out with called Educating the Wholehearted Child. Dawn in My Two Arrows on Instagram asks, how do you do it when one child is just so slow doing any work, due to ADHD distraction? So my second child, he's in 7th grade right now, and he has been formally diagnosed with high-functioning autism spectrum disorder and profound sensory processing disorder. Now, he doesn't just have those issues. He has developed over the years coping mechanisms that look a lot like OCD and ADHD as well. He does not in any way qualify for those things, but when he is triggered due to sensory overload and all sorts of things, he does display a lot of behaviors that line up exactly with those things, just as coping mechanisms and ways to deal with the overwhelm he's feeling. So I really, really get you. I can tell you, if your kid is a sensory kid like mine and has attention issues when he's overwhelmed, we rely a lot on sensory breaks. Before we even start with school for the day, he has spent time outside playing pretend, jumping on the trampoline, playing fetch with the dog, playing soccer with the dog, something active, and getting some wiggles out. If he continues to be distracted and he's having a hard time focusing, we take regular breaks for things like some pull-ups on the chin-up bar, or if he, is moving his feet a ton under the table, I'll have him go outside and I'll challenge him and say, how fast can you run 2 laps around the house? And I'll time him with a stopwatch on my phone. And then I'm like, great job. And I give him a cup of water for a water break. And I'm like, now can you beat that time? And we just take regular breaks doing things like that, where he doesn't actually realize that that is what I'm doing with him necessarily. I just have learned over the years to watch his cues for distraction and overwhelm. He will often do things like he'll really aggressively pop his knuckles. Oh my. I'll do something that's called heavy work sensory input. Sometimes it's things like, I will give you 50 cents if you can go out to the wood chip pile and fill that wheelbarrow with mulch for me real quick. And things like that that are heavy, deep muscle work that just give him that sensory input that he needs to focus a little better. Those are just triggers that I figured out in him. And beyond that, if he's super duper frustrated with something, I will break it down even easier to tinier bites, tinier steps, and really just go crazy with the praise and affirming him when he accomplishes it. Sometimes we just need to stop and just skip that for the day. And I know you can't do that every day. I know that you do actually have to do some work sometimes, but when all else failed and basically everybody's crying, that's when we stop and just do something else, because your relationship with them and their peace in that moment needs to mean more. So we show grace to ourselves and to everyone. Zalagi Family Adventures on Instagram says, how is Annie in 9th grade? I'd like to know the answer to that myself. It is just crazy to me to think that I feel like it was not that long ago this was her. And here she is about to turn 14 and in 9th grade. Jackie G on Instagram asked, do you feel that you have to test your kids on everything they learn, or do you move on when you feel they understand? We definitely work for mastery, which is when they show that they fully understand. Oh, good job. When they can show they fully understand a concept. There is some testing to some extent on things like spelling words, because I need to know that the vocabulary words you've been working on, you know how to spell too. I just truly believe that if your kid knows how to use something and perform an operation and can show you that in their everyday work, there's no reason to just put a test sheet in front of them and say, now show me again, because that wasn't enough. It just doesn't make sense to me. And so many kids feel that pressure of a test worksheet in front of them and completely lose focus and the ability to really show you what they actually know, because nerves and tension just zap their attention, and they just can't do it. And it's not fair to them to expect them to when they've been showing you all week that they do know it. Do you have tips on homeschooling an active autistic first grade boy? I would definitely go to my answers on homeschooling a kiddo with ADHD who works slowly. A lot of those things apply, but it's gonna depend on your child and how profoundly they're affected by autism, on what their particular tics are, if they have the intense sensory issues that my son has as well. In general, I say go at their pace. For a long time, my son would have days where he just couldn't write his work. It didn't work for him. So I would say, work it out loud and I will write it down. Read this to me, tell me the answer and I will write it down. And we would just do schoolwork that way. We would just take baby steps if that's what he needed, or if he very clearly knew something and it was just boring and he couldn't stand it that day, we'd skip it. We'd go ahead to something that wasn't boring and repetitive for him that day. Because the point isn't to fill in every page on the book. It's to teach them how to learn, to teach them to love learning, and teach them how to be a lifelong learner. So most of that is going to come in the practice of how you're learning every single day and not necessarily what you're learning. So don't put so much pressure on yourself. Do what your kiddo needs, whether that's to go insanely fast or take teeny tiny baby steps and write his work down for him because he can't stand to touch a pencil that day. And that is it for all the homeschool questions you all had for me today. If you have any others, put them in the comments section down below. I am happy to answer them. I can answer them in the comments or do another video, whichever works better. And I am always happy to share my heart and my experience and my knowledge with you all and help support you on your homeschooling journey. As always, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, share it if you think anyone else might find it useful, and subscribe to hang out for more. We'll see you again soon.